30 is a weird age for a batter. In your prime, and yet with fewer years ahead than behind. You could keep your place on top or be done by 33. Because almost all players are closer to the end than the beginning at this age. Most likely at their batting pinnacle, and yet we hear anything starting with 30 and think subconsciously they're about to decline. Modern players start to use hair dye, dress younger, or leak their new fitness regimes around this time, letting everyone know that they're still on top. It's not that there aren't some great years ahead of someone this age. They're settled professionals while young enough athletically to enjoy the fruits of experience. But they're old enough for people to look towards the next big thing. Some players just feel older. Sanju Samson is only 30, but he's also 13 seasons into an IPL career. And it's been more than a decade since he made his debut for India. Samson is a lot of things, but a shiny new toy is not one of them. He would have assumed his recent body of work sealed one of the 2 opening batter spots in India's T20 side. But then in comes Shubman Gill as vice captain, and suddenly Samson has a mass problem. How does India use Samson Gill and Abhishek Sharma up top if there are only 2 spots? As vice captain, Gill will almost certainly start, and Abhishek's left-handedness and ability to bowl a few overs gives him an edge. The other keeper in India's T20 squad for the Asia Cup is Jitesh Sharma, who slots into the lower middle order much more comfortably than Samson. Perhaps that's why in the Kerala Premier League of 2025, Samson tried batting lower down for the Kochi Blue Tigers, number 6 for one game with a scratchy 13 off 22, before returning to the top to smash 121 from 51 and 89 from 46. Was he proving he could adapt to the middle order, or simply reminding everyone where he's at his best? And this is the life of a modern Indian player. The talent comes at you so fast that everyone is already looking beyond you. If you slip or pause, you can be done. But Samson isn't just on the outs with India. The last season of the IPL, it seemed as if Rajasthan Royals were consciously uncoupling from him. They already have Yashasvi Jaiswal at the top of the order, and then Vaibhav Suryavanshi stepped up as well. Rian Parag was leading the team when Samson was unavailable, and Luhandare Pretorius was also selected in the squad. Suddenly the oldest batter in his team was less important. Just like India, Rajasthan had younger players and a mass problem. It was clear there was a possibility that Samson was on his way out. Now it appears he's a trade asset rather than the franchise star he was before. But all of this is happening while he was still India's opener. It's as if everyone suddenly decided he was out of fashion, even while they were still using him. Sanju Samson is 30, but he already feels like he's on the verge of being obsolete. Watch every match with Nord. Head to nordvpn.com/good areas to get a discount on VPN. Play safe with Nord. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. If you want to be part of the community that makes content like this, head over now. In 2013, Rahul Dravid handpicked Samson for the Royals. He had the seal of approval of one of the best players ever and even a future coach. His talent was immense and big things were expected. Yet in the last 12 years, Samson has only played 16 one-day internationals and 42 T20s for India. Until the end of 2023, he'd only played 14 20-over matches. It's only after the 2024 World Cup that he's featured more regularly in Indian sides. Samson has been stuck in the friend zone most of his international career. One of the worst things you could be as a modern Indian player is someone who can't match the hype. His promise was always likely to be more than his reality. But what makes Samson compelling despite these scattered performances is how he bats in T20s. He was among the first prominent Indian batters, especially at the top of the order, to play a high-intent game. He was ready to sacrifice run tallies and averages at the altar of strike rates. If you think about it, Samson was batting for speed when India still really loved anchors. And yet, as they come around to his way, they're almost already onto the next guys he helped inspire. So he's ahead of the game, and yet somehow old news. After his first year in 2013, he's had a negative true strike rate only twice in 12 years, while his true average has been negative 5 or 6 times. How quick matters more than how many to him. It's a remarkable quality in a country where the high-risk, high-reward method is still not that easily digestible. It's lauded when there are big scores, but when it produces a low run, the pressure mounts massively. And suddenly there is this clamor for consistency. Basically, the Indian cricket ecosystem, fans, media, commentators, regularly want a lot of runs scored very quickly. If you fail, your method is wrong. If you succeed, you're a legend. It's almost that binary. Yet Samson is a cricketer a little more in the grey. And given all that pressure, it's incredible that he stuck to his guns, continuing to be high intent even when the runs haven't come. Many players revert to knocking the ball around, while he continues to smash. So weirdly, he's not inconsistent. He's radically consistent to his philosophy. It's also something that he does for pace and spin. His balance at the crease, ability to use his feet to improvise, allied to the power in his shot making, has meant that he can take on both seamers and spinners. Most of his years have been in the top right quadrant of true averages, a positive for runs and speed. His IPL 2025 was injury marred, and he played only 9 of the Royals' 14 matches. His conventional numbers were still pretty decent, averaging 36 at 140. But in an IPL of Suryavanshi, Phil Salt, Ayush Matre, and Priyansh Arya, those numbers actually were below par. But if he's scoring at 140 in a meh year, it shows how good he is when he was actually blazing. The only time a particular style of bowling seemed to trouble Samson was during India's T20s against England earlier in 2025. He was dismissed when pulling the ball 4 times in 5 matches, all against Jofra Archer and Mark Wood. It isn't often you get 2 90-mile-an-hour bowlers targeting you. But to those who have doubted that he's quite good enough for the next level, they now have something to hold on to. But when you're committed to attacking, and this is part of your game, you're cornered. And so he took them on, and it didn't quite come off. But as Karthik Krishnaswamy noted, how many times will there be such a perfect storm of high pace delivered with incredible accuracy from both ends? It's not often. Samson's move to opening the batting is a recent phenomenon. He began regularly coming in at the top of the order only after India's World Cup win in 2024 and the retirements that inspired. And in the IPL, the last time he'd opened before 2025 was 2019. So he's had his longest run for India as an opener, but a major chunk of his IPL career has been spent at 3. He has 3,096 runs from 94 innings, the second highest on both counts behind Suresh Raina. Among the top 20 run scorers at number 3, Samson's strike rate is only below that of AB de Villiers and Suryakumar Yadav, both amongst the best T20 players in history. However, Samson can't just be pigeonholed as a number 3 because he's done some incredible things as opener as well, particularly for India, if not Rajasthan. In 19 games opening for India, 13 of them in the last 12 months, Samson has scored an average of 31 and a strike rate of 173. But his sheer body of work when coming in slightly later is more weighty. When Samson was batting at number 3, particularly for the Royals, his ability to take down spin in the middle overs was incredible. And he was doing it in a pre-impact player era when teams didn't have the cushion of extra batting. Most batters tended to accumulate rather than hit out in those middle overs, but Samson was performing significantly better than average. These are the raw numbers based on Samson's entry points. When he's come in during the power play, he struck faster and averaged higher. Of course, some of that is just a function of the field being up, but it's a pretty good record. In the middle overs, his entry point strike rate seems a little bit low. And that's because even during Samson's career, everyone was doing more milking the bowling stuff than looking for boundaries in the middle overs. By true values, where most batters slow down, Samson speeds up. His true strike rate is higher in the middle, but the true average is lower. When Samson is batting, a boundary is never unexpected. Unfortunately for him, there have been times when a dismissal isn't a surprise either. True average is a function of how the normal batter has gone in the same over distribution. It could be argued that in T20s, batting is actually slower than needed during the middle overs. I would certainly argue that. Teams aren't maximizing the resource of 10 wickets to lose across 20 overs enough. They're not taking enough risks. Samson is. He's not reckless, but someone ahead of the game. Not just battling the bowlers, but an old philosophy of batting itself. But even allowing for all that, Samson has tended to get out more frequently than you would expect, especially given his batting talent. The best way to judge him, though, is through his impact numbers. The impact score of a batter is the sum total of how much he has changed his team's expected score with his own performance. Adding all that for each innings, we can get a figure for the season. Like all players, Samson took a bit of time to find his T20 feet, which you would expect of an 18-year-old in the IPL. But once he did, he had a great run, with positive impact scores for 8 consecutive years from 2017 to 2024. That encompassed 2 mega auctions as well, which means that the personnel around him changed considerably twice. Yet his performance did not suffer. In 2024, he seemed to find the sweet spot between balancing attacking with staying at the crease for longer. He scored the most runs he has in an IPL season with 531 and faced his second most balls. His strike rate was 153, the third time he's achieved 150 plus over an IPL season. Unlike the other two times, he sustained that speed over a much greater number of deliveries. He appeared poised to raise his own T20 ceiling, but in 2025, he didn't reach those levels. Perhaps some of this had to do with his general unhappiness in the setup, maybe injury played a part, or just smaller sample size. But he didn't make the impact they'd like, and now both sides seem to want to move on. Finding someone who can bat, keep, and lead is a lot to fill, but Rajasthan have talent waiting, and Samson could allow them to trade for even more. What the Royals truly lack is a reliable low-order hitter, which a lot of teams do. And given that Samson combines batting quality, wicket-keeping, and leadership, he's the kind of asset that might fetch them 2 players in return. The question is no longer whether he's good enough, but what is he worth on the market? For Samson himself, the franchise that makes the most sense is KKR. They need a top-order Indian bat, a keeper, and potentially a captaincy option. Samson does all 3. But the player likely being offered back is Ramandeep Singh, a promising lower-order hitter and medium pacer, but not a star like Narayan, Russell, or Rinku. CSK could clearly use a wicket-keeping batter too, and Samson stepping up into MS Dhoni's shoes would be a privilege and a burden. But again, the potential returns tell a bit of a story here. The Royals might settle for someone like Dewar Brevis or Shivan Dubé, players useful in patches but not yet established icons. Delhi could also use a top-order keeper bat. And Samson's name there gets balanced against Ashutosh Sharma or Vipraj Nigam. Both talented with futures ahead of them, but still projects. All of these swaps make cricket sense, but the symbolism is impossible to ignore. Sanju Samson is 30, India's current T20 opener, a wicketkeeper captain who averages over 50 in ODIs and strikes at 150 plus in T20 internationals. And yet the conversation around him isn't being traded for equals. It's about whether Rajasthan might accept a Ramandeep, a Brevis, or a Nigam in exchange. For a player once framed as a franchise cornerstone, to be spoken of in the language of role players and projects is telling. Samson is not being discarded. He's way too talented for that. But he's no longer untouchable. He's not the star you would build around. He's the asset you move to balance the squad. For India, he might lose his spot because Gill will likely lead the side in the future. But not now. So Samson's potential move from the team is not even about an urgent need, but one in a year's time. He is 30, but this narrative feels like it fits a 35-year-old. His crossroads have come very early. The promise of his youth is well and truly gone. His philosophy is shared by an entire generation. And he's suddenly the odd man out. A third nipple, old before his time. A trade asset, not a franchise star. It feels like the ground has shifted and no one has told him. But because he's not actually that old and still has so many different talents within his game, it's not over. Sanju Samson is 30. This is not the end. It's just intermission. Are you as chronically online as Moses Enriquez? Then here's another video for you. Or if you also like books and stuff, you can buy my new one on the art of batting. If you loved this video, hit the bell icon to be notified for more.